We're here today to interview Janine and Rolland, mainly about their dad's involvement in taxis in early Nipigon. And this is Janine Moore and Rolland Choiselat. And it is to do with the Nipigon Narrations for the New Horizons project for the museum. So my first question, of course, was how did your dad get to come to Nipigon?
Well, I think my Uncle Charlie was here first, I think. And they were from LeBruckery, Manitoba.
Oh.
That's around Steinbach.
Right?
And I think Charlie came here, and I don't know what if Charlie started with taxi, but he was a wheeler dealer anyways. He would sell and buy properties and stuff like that. And I think when Dad first came in, he had a truck. He had a small dump truck that he worked in Red Rock.
Yeah, but I think he worked, didn't he work in the bush too before?
Oh yeah.
He started working in the bush, then he bought a dump truck, and I have a picture of it.
Right.
And that was for the Red Rock Road into.
Oh.
So he was one of them, yeah.
And building the mill.
And building the mill.
Yeah.
So that was whenever.
One of the truck then.
He claimed that he was working with, I think there was a Smith who eventually had Lakehead Freightways, and I think he sort of just gave up his truck, and then I guess he went into taxis.
Business. Wow. So I did also ask Janine then, so that's brothers who are here, did they build the houses and the cabins that are up
Yes,
themselves?
they started with the ones that face 8th Street, number 1 and 2, and then they, got around to.
Yeah, they bought the properties from, would be Mrs. Peterson?
Was it Mrs. Peterson?
Yeah, she owned apparently most of that part of that hill.
I think she owned the property where the house was too.
Yeah, well, yeah, they bought that. I think Dad said for $100, and then the next section where the cabins 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think they paid $300 for that.
And then there was number 5 and 6.
Yeah, well, 6 is on the same property as the house.
Oh, right.
And then they built the house, and I vaguely remember a garage being where number 6 was.
Yeah, great big garage.
Great big garage.
Great big garage where Dad would put his trucks and whatnot. And there was, I remember the time that when I went in there, there was the parts of the plane for Harry Swanson's. They had gone up and got the parts of the plane, and they had put it in the garage.
That after Lloyd Boyle took it for...
Yeah, Lord Boyle took it.
I remember hearing that story.
And the plane, and Dad was good friends with Lloyd and Harry, and because I know Harry used to come for supper once in a while, and Mom used to invite him and whatnot. And at the time, I was only maybe 12 or 13.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I remember the story that I guess Lloyd knew how to take off in the plane.
Oh yeah, I guess it was easy, you start.
And then he crashed. It's up behind the little mill, up in that part where he eventually. And he wasn't hurt, but I guess the plane was.
Yeah, well, Jack, I remember talking to Jack Dampier about that, and he said that he actually remembered the time when the plane took off from the dock. Yeah.
We got pictures of the plane. They used to hunt wolves, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of those, but I remember the plane. And they'd hang them off from the wings or something.
Yeah.
I think the bounty was.
Yeah, there was a bounty then.
Was it $40 at the time?
I have a photo
Was it $40
pictures of
$40 in those days. I guess that was good money.
Right. So that was sort of a hobby then compared to the taxi business.
Oh yeah, I guess we kind of swayed around here, but there's so much in between type of thing.
Taxi wasn't the only thing that we could probably live on that. That's why I guess they started the cabins and
because a lot of people started getting their own cars.
Oh, right. So they would have been before a lot of people had cars. Because then your dad's taxi was involved in the Pine Portage, Cameron Falls era.
Yeah, that was the big thing. I think if you look at old phone books, you might find 30 or 40 cabs at that particular time.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot, but
yeah, Dad mentions. I think I told you before in the Zeckners that he would sometimes go with the bank manager for the payroll,
Mm-hmm.
and he would bring his rifle.
Partridge on the way or something.
Yeah, and the bank manager would bring a revolver, and they would take the payroll and go to Pine Portage to pay the guys. Eh?
Wow.
Well, I remember sometimes that Dad had trips to bring people to Pine Portage, the guys that work there, and he'd say, well, can I bring my little daughter with me for a ride? So he said, oh, sure. So I'd sit in the back seat, and that was a real treat. Rolland was, well, younger than I was, so he didn't go to all these rides, and on the way back I sat in the front, and that was a real treat to have to go with Dad on this big long trip, you know.
Well, after you left home, or as you grew older, I sort of got into that thing.
Right.
If you had a trip someplace, sometimes Thunder Bay or whatever, we go with Dad.
So it must have been, and that would have been a dirt road to Thunder Bay almost, eh?
Yeah.
A trip to Thunder Bay would have been a big occasion for a taxi.
Yeah, that was a big trip.
I don't remember the dirt road, but I imagine there was. That's exactly what it was.
I remember, when we're going to Cameron Falls or Pine Portage, Dad would show me where the old road was.
Oh.
There's, when you get close to Pine Portage, you sort of go up a hill and you go through the rocks.
Right.
And as soon as you pass there, you'll see kind of an edge that go across it. That was the old road going to Pine. There's a couple of thousand people that work there, I believe.
Well, I have seen pictures too of taxi stands along Railway Street. They have sort of little shacks, I think.
Yeah,
eh,
I
where
think
they were.
that was,
Yeah.
where was
Yeah.
that, up here?
It's just close by. It was between the
The,
pool room and I guess the other building that was torn down.
On
Do
the
they
street.
have a pool room still?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's been there forever. But it was maybe 8 or 10 feet wide at the beginning.
Oh yeah, and then
And
I
then
remember
it
that.
narrowed it down. And
Yeah.
It was. I don't know if it was a building or if it was sort of the between two buildings. It was. And that's where his taxi stand originally was.
Okay, wow.
And my mother worked at the Dewdrop Inn
Oh,
for a
okay.
while. Yeah, that would have been probably when she first came here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think of that era compared to today. How did people call a taxi? Because they didn't have them in their cars.
No, it was it 15J was the phone number?
Oh jeez.
Was we pick up the phone and
Yeah, the operator
vaguely
came
remember
on.
that.
Yeah.
Number please.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so we had 2 phones at the house, and one was a taxi, I believe, and one was the home.
So every time your dad would have to go back to his taxi stand to see if there was a call.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have the communication.
There was no communication.
But later on, really later on, when he joined Crescent Taxi, my sons, Tom and John, would go there at evening and they'd take the calls. And I was talking to them a few times back and he said, oh Mom, we got 10 cents a call.
But then they had radios then. Then the radios.
Yeah,
started.
right,
But before
yeah.
then, it was basically a phone, a phone,
Right.
or
Yeah.
a phone ahead of time, make arrangements,
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was sort of a never-ending type job. I mean, Dad would come in usually around 2 o'clock in the morning.
I was just going to say, was it an all-night job too in
Yeah.
those days?
Oh,
Yeah, he would come
probably.
in about 2 o'clock, and then he'd be up around 8:39, and then work around the house and do the cabin and stuff, and
Right.
cut the lawns. And
He had more energy than the whole family put together. I don't know where he got it from.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, when I look back at it, it wasn't an easy type thing.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But he seemed to enjoy doing it,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he
Because
loved-
to me, when I came here, the Choiselat taxis were the 2 main taxis,
Yeah.
and those were the ones people talked about all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if your dad's taxi ever got involved in delivering children to school or anything, because there was a one or two.
a few
that did.
times. Dad did the papers from Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Charlie had done it for quite a few years, and Dad had done, I don't know, 5
And
or
he
6 years.
picked up some blood samples at
Right.
the hospital here
The
and,
hospital.
drove them to McKellar.
Yeah, I remember
But
those.
then he would
Yeah.
leave 2 o'clock in the morning to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and then come home around 6:30, and sometimes the papers were late, so sometimes he had to drive as far as Marathon to deliver
I know.
those papers. Yeah. So
I can just remember when I was first writing for the Chronicle Journal, I would be running my information down to the taxi so they could deliver it in Thunder Bay when they went to pick up the papers. And yeah, things have evolved now, but
There was also, I remember during school time, he would be taken, there was 5 or 6 kids, I don't know if he was doing it all the time or just doing it off taking someone's place to bring them home to Cameron Falls. There was the Belials, I remember one of the boys there in the car, and I used to say, Daddy, are you going today? Are you driving today? Because I kind of had a crush on him. Yeah.
So the Cameron Falls students came here to school, you mean?
Yes, this would have been the public school or
Right,
maybe early
right.
high school, yeah.
Right.
They
right,
had to be driven here. There was only about five or six of them.
Right.
that'd be a different story, because Jerry Rucci
Right.
had the bus.
Right.
And Jerry Rucci had the taxi too,
right.
and
Yeah.
actually it was the ambulance.
Oh, I
Okay,
see.
that's why he had a station
Taxi
wagon.
ambulance.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, it wasn't ambulance. It was a station wagon that you could put a stretcher in the back, and that's
Oh, I don't remember.
about as far as it
Oh,
went.
jeez.
I mean, if there was an accident, I guess they would just pick him, put him in there, and then he would.
Take them.
Yeah.
Good old days,
Yeah,
eh?
he always had a
Wow.
station wagon.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Well, I remember there being several taxis here.
yeah, and Bud Cobb was another one.
But, and Slim Bouchard had a taxi.
Yeah,
Oh.
he worked for Charlie too, I think.
Yeah, Jerry Ritchie worked there. I don't know if he had his own or he worked for
Yeah,
Charlie.
he had his own. Because he had the station wagon. Remember, a big red station wagon, and that was.
And sometime I think I remember Jimmy Thompson actually had a taxi for a while.
Well,
He drove.
he
eh?
would have worked for Charlie.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's lots of people involved in the taxi
Yeah.
business way back.
Yeah,
then.
I know there was another one I remember. I don't remember the name. I think it was a Finn guy that had a taxi. But that's when it was narrowing down
Right.
to about the 4 or 5 taxis in town.
Because Janet Franklin Mackey said her dad also
Okay,
had a
it would
taxi.
have been Mackie, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
your taxi, I think she said, and he had a taxi too. So yeah, Nipigon had so many taxis, and now it's evolved to nothing.
But they all seem to make a go of it. I don't know what the going rate was. Do you know? I don't know what.
I wonder what it cost, for a taxi ride.
Well,
these days.
I drove for Dad for a little bit, and I think to go, for example, to the mission back was maybe about $250.
Oh, okay,
Okay, Thunder Bay would probably be around $50.
right.
You know, but of course,
Yeah, the price of gasoline and
Yeah.
everything
Yes,
was different.
right. Anyway, it was good pictures Janine brought too, and we were just looking at
Yeah.
your dad's garden there.
Oh
Roland.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
Amazing gardener, obviously, with all his tomato plants.
Oh, he was
that-
like he could grow anything, and sometimes behind it you might see some gladiolas, because Mom liked the gladiolas and he liked tomatoes, so he managed to. And this was just like, where's the house here? Oh yeah, this is just on this side of the house to the end.
Oh, okay, because
Yeah.
face the south, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
Well,
he
the
was
apple
like,
trees at Edgeview he planted.
oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh
did
yeah.
he?
Oh yeah.
That's
That was
right. I
his
forgot
pride and
about
joy-
those apple
pride and
trees.
joy of growing these apple trees.
Oh yeah. He could grow anything. It must have been the Manitoba. Oh, they lived on a big farm too.
Right.
So
Right. So just to go back one little bit then, how did your dad meet your mom then? Because that was 2 brothers married to sisters.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if Charlie came first, and was he married when he came here?
I don't
know.
think so.
I'm just wondering.
My dad came over to work with his brother, and they worked in the bush. They were bush. And my mother came to visit her sister.
Okay.
And she had a boyfriend in St. Boniface, and he said, "Oh, what are you going to go up north there for?" She said, "I'm going to visit my sister. She's lonely and whatnot." "Oh, you probably made some Frenchmen up there." Sure enough, she met my dad, and she never, I guess she went back to get married, but that was it. So that's the way you got 2 brothers married two sisters, and they live side by side, and I guess that the rest is kind of history. Everybody, you know.
I just didn't know how they came to live here then, you see.
It's hard to tell. I guess you went where some of the jobs were.
Yeah, right.
It was, you know, take a bucksaw and cut
Right.
a couple cords of wood a day, and you know.
Yeah, you must have the picture. You see Mom, they were building their house, and she's there with the saw outside there.
Could be, yeah.
But you're right, the woods industry in the bush was
Oh,
the business
right.
here then. And then once the hydro came along, they involved, as you said, Charlie was a businessman too there, so he
Yeah.
got involved in the taxi business.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had places, he rented different houses and
Right.
whatnot. And
Well, this is the original house, and
Right.
then across the street, well, as you see, there's nothing at McCurdy.
Right,
It was just
McCurdy,
all,
right.
and
Right.
and then the big garage went over on this side,
Right,
and across would have been Peterson's.
yeah. And 9th Street was just a trail.
A dog trail.
Yeah, I actually even remember that. Boy, that goes back a long ways. In fact, Jim Rojo told me that, well, he lived right across, and he didn't know that it would be Herb Jones or the Joneses were
Right.
Mabelsons. Live right now. He didn't know there was a house there for a long time.
right. Anyway, that's good. We've got a little bit of history on the taxis, and that's what the interview was about today. Thank you very much.
Oh, our pleasure.